Think back 10 years ago. Where did you think you'd be today? For me, I'm so far from where I thought I'd be a decade ago at the age of 21. I was born in the Soviet Union and migrated when I was 7 to Australia with my mother. Found a passion in Australian rules football. I also picked up my mother's interest in teaching. I observed her being a high school teacher all my life and inherited some of her artistic talents, but I couldn't draw stick figures to save my life, so I picked up a camera. It was a lot easier. But then I became a marketer. How does that happen? When I finished high school, I went all in on my dream of playing in the AFL, the Australian Football League. I got to a point where I was in the State League, the WAFL, West Australian Football League, which is the one just before. But 5 years in, at the age of 24, I'm getting a little bit old for the draft. Could I still make it? I was determined. But I also thought, in parallel, that I would try myself and enroll in university and become a high school teacher, just like Mum, wanting to teach physical education and science. And then a couple years later, disaster struck. I was injured twice. In the space of 2 years in my football career, I had an ACL reconstruction and an ankle reconstruction. After rehabilitating for a whole year, I was set to do it again. But I was also in the middle of my studies as a school teacher, and I was loving that. And my personality is all in or nothing. But I couldn't do two things all in, as much as I'd wished. So I asked myself, what would I be most disappointed in walking away from? So I hung up the football boots and went all in on my studies. Relief is what I did as soon as I finished school studies, which is also known as substitute teaching. When I began school teaching, I was put straight into the deep end. And that deep end was the students would not pay attention, they weren't engaged. It was quite different to what I was taught at university. But I had a quirk, I had a knack. The students would ask me, "Sir, how tall are you? Do you bump your head when you walk in on the door frame? What shoe size are you?" And they were really obsessed with my sneakers, just like the ones I'm wearing today. I wore a different pair every day. And not before long, the students would, to the disapproval of their teachers and me, skip their class to find out what I was wearing on my feet that day. Success. I had their attention. They were engaged. And then they were listening to me in my lessons. I also picked up my photography because with no more football, I could do something else. And photography was a non-contact thing, so it was a good decision. I got to relief or substitute one class for photography. It was a dream. I could teach something I'm passionate about, which is something I like creating, my creativity. But the students weren't engaged because it wasn't the first subject that they wanted to do. They wanted to do phys ed or something else completely. So I come in and I share my photos at the start of each lesson. And the students wanted to know more. They were interested, they were invested. Success. I had their attention. And not only that, they actually wanted to learn how I took those images, and there's the lesson. Now, today I'm talking about self-awareness. And the overall message is how that relates to you by showing my examples. So right now, I've had a setback, which is injury in football. And also, in parallel, I shifted to something that was more interesting to me and made that decision to switch. Again, thinking back 10 years ago, have you done something similar, or are you still on the same path? There's no wrong answer, but are you still invested? Are you still passionate? Are you still happy with what you're doing? Pay attention to yourself. So now I'm in the school system. It's 2019, and I've run out of shoes to wear each day. And the kids, they're all following my photography journey. They know I'm a photographer. The school even decided to hire me as their photographer, as my extracurricular value to the school, which was great because I got to do that. And school carnival day, all the teachers would be allocated watching triple jump or something. But I'd be walking around with my camera most of the time in the shade. It was a good deal. But I needed something else to hack the students' attention. Now, I mentioned that I was a physical education teacher and a science teacher, but I actually ended up being a maths teacher. A story for another day. But in one of my maths classes, a student was laughing at his lap. And you know that means that they're probably on their phone or they're really weird. So I said, okay, what's funny? And he showed me his TikTok. Discovered TikTok, that was it, in the classroom. So I said, okay, I'll invest, I'll take my time and learn it. Posted some videos up, just silly stuff. And not before long, the students discovered my account. They come up to me at school, they say, sir, we found your account, it's really funny. Some other students thought it was a bit cringe, but years later they figured it was cool because, they want the clout as well. So now that I've got their attention again, I'm teaching them, but I'm also doing something creative. And all at the same time, I'm talking about my photography inside of TikTok as well, hence the name Sev's Pics. And people start asking me, oh, you do wedding photography. Can we hire you? They would find me on TikTok. No way. I thought it was just a bunch of kids lip syncing and doing dance moves. But no, there was people there ready to get married. So now, in 2019, I'm thinking, well, I'm at a crossroads. There's a parallel here again. So I decide, why not? 2020, I'm going all in and seeing what I can do in 12 months as a photographer full-time. January, great. February, great. Getting lots of bookings. And then pandemic. And fortunately, I was able to come back to school and do it part-time. But I had a bigger following on TikTok by then. And the students were like, God. I would walk past a classroom on my off period, and at lunchtime, the teacher in that class would come up to me saying, Sev, can you not walk past the classroom? All my year sevens were just completely disengaged as soon as you walk past. There's the TikTok teacher. He goes to our school. Oh, my God. And then even when I had relief with them, I remember hearing them outside trying to figure out who they knew that the teacher wasn't there that day. And they said, oh, yes, we've got him. Yes. Success. I had their attention. They were engaged before I even met them. Not only that, the kids would be consuming content on their phones. So they would see me at school in person, and they'd go home, and then I'm there again. They can't escape. Now, I leveraged that in 2020 because a lot of students weren't coming to school for obvious reasons. So I thought, why not do a live stream and do a maths lesson or two? And at the peak, I had 20,000 students streaming across 1 week, watching me teach them maths on TikTok. Not only that, they actually took notes and sent it to me because I told them, if you take notes and send it to me, I'll share it. They loved it. Success. They were invested and they were actually paying attention. When we got back to school, I used that and I started creating lessons before class. I started recording 10, 15-minute lectures and I'd put it on the screen at the front of the class. And it was interesting because it was literally the whiteboard right next to the TV that I would be doing the maths work on. But they were invested, they were engaged. Success. Now, as I was trying to figure all this out and going on live stream on TikTok at home, other teachers would be still trying to figure out how to unmute their Zoom. When the students came in, they were engaged because they knew how to consume on the screen. But I cloned myself because I was at the back of the class. So how good's this? The rest of the lesson is sorted. And if there was a student disengaged, I'd come up to him, one-on-one. And if there was another student that didn't want the one-on-one or the pace was too quick on the TV, I'd upload it on her screen and she'd go at her own pace. Success. I was creating and I was teaching. I was doing two things. Now, I encourage whatever you're doing right now, whether you're studying, whether you're at the start of your career or you're in the middle of your career or thinking of doing something else. I encourage you to pay attention to yourself and really hone in on what you really want to do. And if you're comfortable with whatever you're doing right now, great. Amazing. I'm stoked. Now, I have a problem. It's working too well. And I still want to give that creativity a try outside of school. So in 2021, I thought, what would I be most disappointed in walking away from? So I actually walked away from the education system and really went and tried again in 2021. And fast forward 2 years, I'm booked out for 2 years in advance in my wedding photography business. The students, not only from my school, but across the country and around the world, are watching me live out my dreams of creating. But then some other businesses started paying attention. Companies, brands. Sev, we'd like to have you come in and collaborate with us. Yeah, sure, sweet. Who's taking care of your socials? They're not really doing so well. And they say, can you teach us? I'm like, really? Me? Teacher? I could do that. So I end up doing a full circle. I get to create and I get to teach. But I get to do it to a wider audience, not just in the one school. And those students are still following. And some of them have actually come in and asked for an internship. So they've come back and they want me to teach them more, but in the real world, which is fantastic. I'm stoked. Now, how does that relate to you and the value that I'm giving you today? Again, think of what you're doing right now in this present time, whatever it may be. If there's something that's encouraging you to really just go for it, give it a go. You don't have to completely quit tomorrow, but start that journey. And then sooner or later, you can make that decision, just like I did, to pivot. Because in the end, all that's important is your happiness. One of my all-time favorite comedians, Jim Carrey, paraphrase him a little bit. If you're failing at something you don't like, or failing at something you do like, that's fine. But you may as well do something you love. Thank you.